Hello, welcome to part 2 of the Solidworks introduction. Today we're going to be focusing on the loft feature. So basically, so far, what we've done is we've used something called just an extrude, where we make a two-dimensional shape, and then we you can think about it like pulling up to make our three-dimensional shape. A loft is different because it uses two-dimensional shapes to create a three-dimensional shape. So for example, if we have a circle here and a circle here, we can use the loft feature to create a 3D shape that fills in between those two 2D shapes. So continuing with our kind of dining room theme, we are going to do a glass of water. Well, just a normal glass, I guess. Doesn't matter what's in it. And we're going to be using the loft to make exactly what I've just drawn. Along the way, we're also going to be experimenting with planes. So our two big things today are the loft and also the plane. And you're obviously going to continue kind of just getting used to navigating around SolidWorks. So let's move over to SolidWorks. Now, I already have my part file all opened. This is a new part. I'm not building it in the same one as my chair is in. And I'm going to start pretty much the same way. I'm going to start by making that small bottom circle of my glass. I'm going to do it in my top plane. I'm going to go up to sketch, because right now I'm on features. We always want to start with a sketch. And I'm going to make a circle. I'm going to use a center circle, because I'm going to center this on my center point. Whenever you can, references are nice. I often like to center things on the center point, the origin, when I can, because it makes things a little easier. So let's make this, and I'm trying to think about how big is the bottom of a water glass. Maybe like 2 inches? So I'm going to go up to my smart dimension. Remember, this is our best friend. You can dimension down here, but if you use Smart Dimension, it's just easier to make changes after the fact, so I recommend doing that. So we have our 2-inch base, and then I'll press OK, and then I'm going to exit this sketch. So here is the bottom of my glass. Doesn't really look like too much right now, but we need our second sketch in order to continue working on this. Now, I believe I mentioned in the first video that you have to draw, anytime you sketch something, it has to be either on a plane, so right here we have our front, top, and right planes, or on like the edge of something, the face of something. And in this case, I want to draw my second circle kind of up here, but I have nothing to draw on. There's not a plane there, right? I only have these 3 planes. I don't have any surfaces at all yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new plane. So planes are over in the Features tab. You can make, under Reference, you'll see Plane. So if I click on that, you'll see a bunch of options come up. So this first, second, third reference. There are other ways to do planes. Today we're going to do a really simple one. I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to click on my top plane and use that as my reference. I'm going to make an offset plane. So what this means is I'm going to make a second plane that is just offset. It's just going straight up from this one, and that is where I'm going to draw my second circle. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to go to plane, and so now you'll see I have, in the first reference, I have the top plane. It's easier to just select it at the beginning is what I found. And let's see, I'm trying to think about how tall a water glass is. It's got to be at least like 6 or 7 inches. So this is how I do my offset, this field right here. So I'm going to type 7 in here, and I should be able to zoom out. Oh yeah, okay, that's maybe a little bigger than I was thinking, but I don't really have any sense of scale. Let's see, I'll do 6 inches. That'll look good. And you're welcome to customize that any way you want. Go ahead, get glass, measure it, see what happens. You can also flip the offset. So for example, if I'm like, oh, I actually want an upside down cup, I can flip the offset and they'll go the other way. Using these isn't going to really work right now because we want to be offset, versus if you were making a plane that was in comparison to a line or a point or something like that, then you can use things like parallel, perpendicular, and coincident. So for now, just worry about this one. You'll get better with planes as you go. Okay, so I'm done with that. I press my check mark, and now I have this new plane. And so I can either have the plane selected at the start and then press sketch, or I can go to sketch and say I want to draw a circle, and then I can select this plane. One thing you might find is you can see how we can see this plane all the time. If you don't want to see it, if you want it to look like these ones, the front, top, and right, where it only shows up if you mouse over it, you can click the hide button. Oh, sorry. Again, my window capture is not working quite properly. So if I right click here, then I have a bunch of options come up. One of them is an eye that has a cross through it that hides it. So if I select that, then it goes away. But at least for this right now, it's handy for me to be able to see it. So I am going to sketch my circle on that plane. I am going to, now I'm really happy that I put my circle directly on my origin, because now I can just draw this one also directly on my origin. And I want to make this like 3 inches. Again, I don't really know off the top of my head how big this glass is. I probably should have just measured one. And then I'll press OK. So now we can see I have, this is a funky looking cup. I have my 2 circles, and they are in different planes. And I'm going to exit the sketch and go back to features to do my loft. So here I have the lofted boss base. I'm going to click on that. And right here we'll see it says profiles, right? And you can see it looks exactly like what we have. We have a square going to a circle. We have a circle going to a circle, but I'm going to select my 2 things. In this case, we don't have a guide curve really. You can move, so mine has preview showing, yours probably will as well. There is also this, I think this is acting as our guide curve right now, so if I move it around, in this case I'm not going to see, oh yeah, I will see a bit of a change. So you do have the option to do that if you want to make like a really funky looking glass. It does, yeah, see how it starts kind of like tapering in, and that just has to do with how that line runs along the side. Don't worry too much about that. For now, we're going to keep it nice and simple. Okay, so I'm going to press OK, and now we have at least the outside of our glass, which is pretty cool. The next thing that we want to do is make it hollow, right? So what we're going to start by doing is basically exactly what we just did, only a little bit smaller. So we'll start with this top circle, right? Because we want to cut out the center of this, and then we want to leave a little bit of a base at the bottom, otherwise we're just going all the way through. You could always just go all the way through and then go back at the end and add a bottom onto it, but we're going to keep it nice and neat on this one. So we'll start by making our next sketch. We're going to make it on that top plane. And this time, we're going to kind of be determining the thickness of the edge of our glass. So I'm going to smart dimension this in between these 2 items. So now it's 0.65 inches. A ½ inch seems big for an edge of a glass. Let's do like 1/3 of an inch. So now all the way around, we have 1/3 of an inch on each side, which seems good to me. And that seems like a reasonable wall thickness as well. Obviously, depending on what material you would be using to actually make this, you'd probably choose the wall thickness based on that. But here is at least the top of our lofted cut, which we'll be doing next. So now, like I said, we could draw a circle directly on the bottom here, and then have it cut all the way through, and then kind of like fill in the bottom after the fact. But what we're going to do is we're going to practice making a plane again. So I'm going to exit this sketch. And I am going to go to my top plane, and I'm going to make another plane, so reference select plane, and this time I am going to have it not 6 inches above, but like 1/3 of an inch above, right? So it's going to have the same thickness on the bottom as it has on the sides, and this is where I'm going to draw my second circle. Okay? So I will press OK. And this is a little bit weird, right? Because I have this plane in here, I'm going to be drawing on this, but I can't really see it. You can totally just draw right on here, but you might have a little bit of trouble seeing. And so one thing you can do is right up here, this button is for section view, so it lets you kind of cut away parts so you can see things a little bit better. So right now, because I had that plane selected before I started, and you can also select it after the fact, it is cutting right along that place, but it's showing me the wrong side. I'm going to use this reverse arrows to see the other side. So now I can see the side going up, which I like, which I find helpful. You can also change the plane to different planes. So if I wanted to see side to side how this looked, or the other side to side, I have lots of different options. I'm going to go back to the start just because it'll be easier than trying to select that plane again. Alright, so once I have a view that I like, then I will press this check mark. So now I can see, and it's exactly where I'm drawing, and it's just a little bit easier. So I'm going to go over to Sketch, choose my circle again, and I'm going to choose my plane. Again, because we started on the origin, this is all easier because I can just say I know it's directly on the origin. And then I want to Smart Dimension. If you wanted to, you could have a thinner edge on the bottom than on the top. It's really up to you. Oh, interesting. I don't know that it's actually going to. Here's what we can do. So because, yeah, I do have that edge. Why wouldn't it let me Smart Dimension it? Yeah, for whatever reason, it's not letting me Smart Dimension that, and I'm not super surprised. It gets a little bit weird on things like that, so stuff that is not specifically like dimensioned, it sometimes doesn't like to reference it. So what we can do is we can take another circle and we can draw it so that it is right on that edge. It is interesting that it's not letting me actually select it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to Smart Dimension between those two things and say it's 0.3. Now this method is not entirely perfect. There's probably certainly a better way to do it. Oh yeah, see, because that is not actually connected to the edge. Interesting. Okay, this is super interesting. Let's see if we can make this. I feel like I should be able to make this fit exactly onto that, but it's not letting me. Well, for the sake of argument, the other way to do it is, of course, to just measure things out so that you know how big this circle needs to be. Do a little bit of math. So I'm going to make it slightly smaller than it is right now because I saw that it was 0.23 about. So let's make it 1.72. 1.7. So just a little bit smaller. I'm going to say that's good enough because really this is just practicing with lofts and things. So then I'll press exit. And now my special cutaway view is not super useful, so I'll just click back on that button and it'll go away. So I can see I have the bottom of my cup again. And then what I'm going to do is do a lofted cut. So if we go back over to features, then this is our cut area, remember? So now I have my lofted cut. And then just like before, I have the profiles to select. Whoop. And I select this one. And then I select, let's see if I can get in there. Yes, always zoom in if you're having trouble selecting things. Okay, and I think that looks pretty good to me. And so I'm going to press OK. And look, I have a sweet water glass. And if you want to be sure that it's hollow all the way through and you don't feel like you can get a good view from above, you can use that section view again and look from a different side. Yay, look, it's beautiful. That would totally hold water. It's amazing. So this was a pretty quick one, but hopefully gave you some good practice with lofts and just kind of planes and getting used to the interface. So see you next time.